And let's go live. All right, welcome back. We are Game 2014. That's Mobile Game Dev 1 in the fall 2021 semester at George Brown. And it's week 14, part 1 of our broadcast and recording. And we're doing things a little differently today. I've shared a GatherTown link. I've got GatherTown going on. So I've created a little GatherTown room that looks like this. So you guys can kind of join this up as well. And what I'd like you to do today is kind of come on board with me and join me on GatherTown. I'm just going to stop uh, sharing on GatherTown right now, and I'm hoping that you guys can join me. So I got only one person with me, but I'll do an invite for you guys for the people that are here, and let's copy that link. And for the people that are on Zoom, why don't you come over to GatherTown, grab that link and go over. I've also got a link that I put up on Blackboard. So if you look at Blackboard, there is this GatherTown link that you can come and join me on GatherTown. Okay, so that's the link. And the reason why we're using GatherTown today is to try something a little different and to see how it works when it comes to breakout rooms and those kind of things that I want to do for next semester. And that's why I've asked you to do this. So I'm kind of in prep for what we're doing next week or next semester. So again, I've got one other person in there with me. If you can join me, the people that are here. So that's, I'm not sure if it's Herman that's there. So I see an H as opposed to something else. But it's me and one other person. But I'm hoping that Hafsa and Herman and Lucas and Michael and maybe even Anna from the first half can come on and join me on GatherTown. HH. Okay, that means that must be you, Herman. There we go. Now I know who it is. So GatherTown is kind of cool because you can humor in different places. You don't need to be in both places. If you want to just be on GatherTown and you don't want to be on Zoom, it's okay because the information is going to be shared in both spots in a second. And I'll do that by sharing my screen on GatherTown as well. So there you go. You can see both. All right, so let's talk about, it looks like no one's moving except for Herman. Thank you, Herman. Well, so here is our course outline. And back to this, we're at the bottom of week 14. And this week, just to notice that we're 1 week away from the final test. After doing a poll last week with you guys, I've kind of come to a decision, and after talking with Alex, that we're going to stick with the original plan, which is it's going to be a practical test. I didn't want to do this, but after reviewing it with him and the fact that I only got 20 of you giving me feedback from my little poll last week out of 68, 69 people, that's not a very high ratio. And I find that I'm not comfortable, switching things around last minute. So I'm going to keep it as is. And the way it's going to be for the final test is you're going to be given a starter project that's compatible with Unity 2021.1.19F1. The test will be released on the Monday, so almost a week today, Monday, December 13th, and it will run until next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, Saturday, December the 18th. You'll have that whole week, to do your practical test. It'll be obviously based on something we do with platforms. We've been doing platforming for the second half of semester. So that's where that's going to be. And we'll still meet on Tuesdays. I'll leave the Tuesday slot open for both sections, from the 12 to 3 and the 3 to 6 section, for Q&A and to go over the details of the test, which I will record for you guys during that time frame. So next week. Okay, that's what's happening. And really, that's what is happening. The other thing is that, just a reminder that assignment 2, part 2, we've extended it, and now it's due on Sunday, this Sunday coming up. And this lab that we're going to be talking about today, which kind of didn't work today, we'll go through it and I'll make it work. That is going to be due next week this week on Friday, right? So there is a lab that's due Friday. It's the last lab of the semester, and the assignment 2, part 2, which is going to be due on Sunday. That's happening this week. And then next week is your final test, which is just a practical test based on the things that I gave you. And I think it's going to be fairly straightforward to do. All right, so any questions around the final test or anything that's due that's for the last part of the semester? Again, I'm looking at both the Zoom call as well as the stuff that I've got on GatherTown. Hey, Lucas, I see Lucas on GatherTown too. Cool. So the reason why I like GatherTown in some ways is because there is a sense of presence that you have when you're sitting inside those like virtual seats. I've also started some areas. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to shut down my my stream for a second for you guys because you guys are going to see like a double stream. The guys on GatherTown right now. But what I'm showing the people on Zoom is what GatherTown would look like. You guys have seen this from Josh because he does this. So I have me. It's kind of like a little gamified experience, right? And I've got a couple of other people that have joined us, Lucas, Hafsa, and Herman. It looks like they've joined us. And I have some areas here that you can see on the left and on the right that are colored. These colored areas are private areas where you can have conversations with other team members, and the other people can't hear you. So why we would use this is if you wanted to have a conversation in class, an in-class conversation with groups of people in your team. So next semester when we get together for Mobile Dev 2, then you'll get together and you can talk in a group around here with your team, and group sizes will be between 4 to 6 people, and you can have a chance for how that looks. I know, Harmon. I'm so sorry about the practical, but I think mine will be less crazy, I hope, than what you've seen. All right. So again, if you haven't had a chance to, please join me for the people that are here on GatherTown. The link again is up on Blackboard. So if you look on Blackboard right here, there's the GatherTown link. If you can join me, that would be Eric. I think is the other person that came in just now. Okay. So that's what's happening. And without further ado, because we're going to run out of time, what I really want to do is get moving on getting things done. So let's get this going. Okay. So I'm going to go back to GatherTown just for a second, just to start sharing again, because otherwise you guys won't see what I'm doing. And we'll share my screen. And so now you're seeing it, both sides are seeing it. Zoom is seeing it, and GatherTown, people on the Gather site, is seeing it as well. And I'm going to start off with the first thing that I always do, which is I'm going to pull off the previous thing that I did on my desktop. So again, on the desktop here, I'm going to have under GBC, there is a link from last week, which is Lab 10. I'm just going to kind of make a new one. So I didn't do this in the first time. I kind of try to make it faster, but actually this wasn't much faster. And this will be lab 11. This will be the last lab that we do. I'm going to grab everything from lab 10 here, except for the library folder. We don't care about the library folder. Copy it and go over to lab 11 and paste it. Hopefully that'll get us going. So again, we're starting off a brand new lab. I also have the other one that I put up as well. Hey, Michael, I see you on GatherTown now. All right, and I have Jing that just came in. Jing, if you can join us on GatherTown. And here is the link for that for the people that aren't here yet. Actually, I'll just get it from here. Invite people. And there it is, Jing. If you can join us on that GatherTown link, that'd be cool. All right, so so we've done this copy stuff, and what I want to do is I don't need this. That's from the previous week, and I'm going to change this from this. So let's first start off with Unity. So I'm going to open up the new lab on with Unity. So GBC 2014, and it's lab 11, just like we've done before. Open it. This will create all the things in Unity, regenerate the library folder, and all that kind of good stuff. All right, so guys, for the guys who are on GatherTown, you don't have to be both on GatherTown and on Zoom. It's up to you. I can still hear you on GatherTown if you want to. So you can just simply be on GatherTown. And I see Christian there too. Cool, Christian. All right. And if you've never done this before, it's kind of weird, but you can see that you can take your spot. I'm just here in this area here is where everyone can hear you. So this is where I'm at. So that everyone can hear me, no matter where I am, no matter where you are in the class, you can hear me. Cool. Awesome. And it's funny enough, what they said, some people said that when they tried this out, they were like, they sat in the same spots as they did in the real world. Like when they went to the real world, there was a podium and they went to sit in the same spots as they did in the real world, which is interesting. Hey, Eric, I see you come in. And that's a little different than I'm used to because I was like, wait, what? Why would you sit in the same spots? Because it's just that's where they feel comfortable sitting, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I know it's something we kind of get used to it when we first start off, right? So that's kind of neat. One thing for this is that there are limitations on how many spots there are. So I think it can only host gather towns of like maximum 25 people. So we'll see how this goes for next semester, if I can get more support on doing this a little better. Okay, my Unity's taking its time loading things up, but I am kind of broadcasting twice, so that makes sense. All right, let's go into the main and let's recall what we did last time. Okay, so last time when we got together, we kind of fixed up the line of sight system, and right, and this time we have a couple things I want to do. One thing is I want to add a couple more platforms is what I want to do, right? And maybe expand our level a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of where we were last week. Okay, and so I want to do more. So I want to save this and let's put it up on GitHub as a starting place. So file, save project, and then let's exit. And typically I can do more in the second half than I can. Hey, I see Jing too. Hey Jing, how you doing? Again, if you're already here, you don't have to be on the other side. So if you're on the GatherTown side, then you don't have to be on the Zoom side if you don't want to. All right, so that's cool. Let's put this up on GitHub. So I'm going to go and open that up. And you should be able to see this as well, just like normal. So if I'm going to go to courses, desktop, and I want to go into GAME2014 and Lab 11, which is what's happening here. And that's the one I want to select. I have the old repository from last week, which is this one. So let's just kill this one, remove the origin remote. And then what you can do is you can add a new one. So first of all, I want to stage all changes. Go, stage all changes. And then what I want to do is I also want to change the couple things. I don't need this one, so let's get rid of this. And my README file can also change. So that can be lab 11, not lab 10. So that's something I want to change. So I did all that. Wonderful. And then stage all changes. Go. And then, so let me stage all changes again. Go back for a second. Stage all changes. That's weird. And we'll add in a thing that says updated project files. Commit change files. And I want to push up to GitHub in a second. But there's no place to push. That's going to ask me for a new remote. And I want to say yes. And then I can select the remote that I want, which is going to be here on Lab 11. And then we'll take that one. Once I've got that remote, I can go up on GitHub. And I can grab that remote there for Lab 11. That's weird. That didn't push it yet. There it is. That was slow. And then I can put that in here. So I can say web link, and let's put that as, this is like, what the, right. GitHub link for Lab 11. So that's kind of a Lab 11 starter. that I've got here, and this is the actual final. Actually, the starter is kind of the final too, but whatever. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to add in some additional platforms first. So that's the first thing I want to do. We've got moving platforms, but I think it might be really cool if we add in other types of platforms as well. Okay, so hopefully you guys can all see this as well. By the way, for the people on GatherTown, can you hear me okay? You should be able to. Maybe you put a thumbs up. There we go. Lucas did a thumbs up for me. Awesome. I also got some comments here. Yep, for Christian. Awesome. All right. So again, what we want to do is we want to add some additional platforms on this one. So far, all we have in our prefabs folder, if we look in our prefabs folder, is we have a moving platform, and I want to add in other platform types. So we use our platform prefab, which is kind of a generic platform, and we're going to add more platforms. So the first one I want to add is some kind of platform that is like a conveyor platform, and sometimes call it a conveyor platform or a sliding platform. Let's do that in. So let's do that first. So again, I'm going to pull this one in here. And one thing that we know is that we want to be able to kind of color the platform and let us know that it's something else. It's a new platform that we have, and we want to be able to, kind of put it in place, and yet be able to identify that this is something new. Okay, that's what we want to be able to do. Okay. So in order for me to do that, I want to create a new script before we start, which is going to help us color the platform itself. Okay, so let's call this a new C# script that I'm going to put in called color controller. There's my color controller. And my color controller, it can be put on anything that has stuff inside of it. So any kind of game object that has other game objects inside of it, like the platform. Okay, so let's put that color controller on. And in the color controller, what I want the color controller to do is read the information from my platform and get a reference to all the sprite renderers inside. So the way to do that is we're going to pull up a new script. And nice. And in the new script, we're going to say that we want two things. We want to be able to do a public color, which will be the platform color. And and the other thing that we want in here is a list. We can make this private, a private list whenever my resharper decides to respond. A private list of type sprite renderers. Okay, that's what we want. We'll call this the sprite renderers. Okay, and that's the sprite renderers of the tiles that are inside there. So maybe we want to call this tile sprite renderers. Tile sprite renderers. Okay. And in order for me to fill up that list, instead of dragging and dropping because it's private, I can say tile sprite renderers is equal to get components in children, which is the sprite renderer component in the children. And we want to convert this to a list because by default we get an array. So it'll add in system.link for you if it doesn't automatically do it, if you don't have ReSharper running. Okay. So that's what this does. Okay, awesome. So once we've got the list, everything's converted to a list. Now we've got a reference to the tile sprite renderers. And what we want to do is, as soon as we do that, we want to, when I select the color, then whatever that color is going to be the color of my sprite renderers. So then I want to make a little function where the little function will be something like a public void set color. And the set color function We can make two of them. This set color function is going to say, okay, cool. I want to take the color that I got from my platform color and assign them to the sprite renderer. So I can say, hey, for each tile sprite renderer, right? Tile sprite renderers. So for each renderer, we'll call it renderer. For each renderer in tile sprite renderers, I want to take that renderer. I want to look at the material, and I want to set color, just like we did last time. We want to use the color shader property. We want to change it to the platform color that we've selected. Okay. And I want to call set color for the first time right after in start. So set color. But what if I want to set the color later on? Let's say I want to change the color of my my tiles from outside of the platform. Let's say I target the platform and I want the platform to glow or something else like that, and I want it to change over time. Then what I could say is I could do another public void set color, but this time it takes in a color value, right? And I could even say that there's a default color that you're going to get if you don't give me something. All right. Now, how does it know? I can kind of duplicate this. How does it know which color? So color is this color, right? But how does it know that it's this function that I need to use, but not this function? Question for the people online on our Zoom call, as well as the people who are in GatherTown. Why do you think that you can see the one that's selected? It selected this one. You can see this one is highlighted and this one is grayed out, right? So why did it select this function call and not this one? What's the reason for that? This is kind of, okay, Hafsa says the parameter. Yeah, it could be the parameter, but remember that this is also there's a default parameter here, and this default parameter makes it so that I can use no parameter if I want, right? So it says method overload. It's hidden by the overload. It says create overload without parameter, right? This is what it would look like without the parameter. Set color, no parameter, right? And that's a problem if I follow what it tells me to do, right? And why? Because it'll never do this one. That's what it's saying. If I did this, that's different. That's not hidden. But if I did something else, that would be false. That would not work properly. So this is cool. This is what I wanted to do. And one thing I want is, what if I want the object to show me what the color is going to be in the editor? Can I do that? Well, we can actually run a little attribute, and this is kind of dangerous sometimes, but we can say execute in edit mode. We can execute this little function in edit mode. Anything this thing is connected to, it'll automatically execute in edit mode. Okay, so it'll find this tile renders by itself, and then after it finds the tile renders, it'll color the tiles based on the color that is listed inside of the color that I've chosen. Okay, now it's only going to do it once. So as soon as it renders for the first time, that's when it's going to do it, because I'm doing it in the start function. If I change the color in real time, I mean, it's not part of the update function, so it's only going to ever do it one time. Let's see how this looks. So if I go back to here, and it also messes with some stuff, just FYI, right? When you do this. But let me explain what's happening here. So there's the tile, there's the platform, but it's invisible. Why is it invisible? Well, because a couple things. One, the color that we're choosing has an alpha transparency by default of 0, right? So let's change this alpha transparency to 1, right? Okay, cool. Well, why then is it that I can't see it now, right? Because I should be able to see it because the platform color is 0. Well, if you look inside of the tiles, right, as an example, here are the tiles that we want to see. This is the platform that I want to look at. But still it appears that the color is 0, right? If I run it though, if I run it for the first time, so this is inside of play mode now, well, you see black, which is what we're supposed to see. And if I go back, it remembers, and it's black. So this is the glitchiness that I was talking about before. Be careful about executing stuff. You get a pile of these errors inside of the stuff. You can do it. Sometimes it can help you visualize like we do here, but it can also be a bad thing. And it will only do it after you run it for the first time. So let's say, for example, I want this special thing. It's going to be a purple color. I want it to be like this purple color that I want to color the entire platform with. This is what I want. Well, if I run it the first time, because I'm running it in this mode, then sure enough, it's this purple color. And when I come back out, and it retains the color. It's not the normal color anymore. Danger, Bill Robinson, danger, right? I'm talking about this thing right here. Some people like to use it. I like to use it sometimes for testing, but it can do permanent effects where it writes to the shader into the material forever. And let me show you what that means. Because this is a platform, this platform here is the way it is, check out what's happened here. This is permanently this color, and at least in the editor. And also I've got this happening, an instance of an instance of an instance of an instance. What? What is going on there? That can't be right. So that's something that's changed up. Let's change that back. So we can select those tiles and fix that material problem by just calling the default sprite. So if I put default in there, it's going to find sprite's default, and that's what you want to want. So that's what it did. So now if I run it, it's going to show us the color in runtime. I want to change the color in runtime. Yay, there it is. But in my editor, it's not going to show it. Also, notice that I got these things back. Why? Because the layers, when I loaded up my project, the project settings were reset. So I want to just not see the markers. We cannot see those. Awesome. And maybe that color's a little bit too crazy, right? So again, what I can do is I can say something like, well, for this particular platform, instead of being this crazy color, let's make it less crazy. So something like, a little bit lighter, and that kind of thing. And then when we run it, you'll see what that color is. So the reason why I want to use the color is because I want to indicate that the platform is different, right? Hey, look, there's a different color platform. It's this. It's different than these. Maybe this means something, player. Let's go one step further and attach something to make it actually do something. So for this platform, let's add a component, and we'll add the component that is a Platform Effector 2D. Easiest thing you can do. And here inside of the box collider, I want to trigger the effector. So that's what it does. So there's my effector. That's the wrong one. Let's undo that. Remove. In fact, instead of that, I want another thing. The surface effector is what I wanted. I'll be okay. Surface effector. And the surface effector is basically like a conveyor belt that goes from one side of the platform to the other with some kind of force. Let's make the force be something like 10. It's using a collider mask, but we probably want to change that collider mask so it doesn't include bullets or markers or death plane or the background, but walls and players are okay, not platforms. Okay, so kind of I uncheck stuff I don't want it to collide with. And then what I can do is if I play the game, and if I jump on this platform, it should roll me back. So up I can make it to the platform, right? Maybe it's too tall. Yeah, it's too tall. So let's just move that down just a touch. So I'll take that platform and move it down. So I can move it on top of there. Sure, and maybe even a little bit closer, right? Because I can't seem to make it to that one. There we go. That I should be able to make it too. Let's try it again. Right? And now you can see if I'm standing there, it kind of roll me off of the platform. And I can kind of put a different value that I want, right? But it's sure enough, I'm going to roll back. So it's like a conveyor belt system. So I can make it faster. So I can change the speed to like 15, right? And now it can be quite fast. And you want to show the player what these things do. If you're going to add platforms like this, right, you want to tell the player what this does. It's almost like a tutorial without telling the player what it is, right? So one thing to do is create an arrow that you can overlay on the platform itself, right? So let's do the arrow. So again, I'm going to go up into a program called Photopea, and I've already got the arrow in here, right? This is what the arrow would look like. I made this arrow by using a, again, all I did was make a box, right? And then you can create a triangle like this. And I've made the arrow white like this, so that way you can do it. You can use any arrow you want, but this is how I did it. And if you want to see it being done, we can open up another instance of Photopea and let's do it. So let's do that. So Photopea. And I want to make it something like 256 by 256. So let's do that. So again, a new project, make it something like 256 by 256. Everyone has different, kind of tools. I'm starting to like this tool. You can make this transparent. And once we made it transparent, let's call this arrow and create, which makes this. And what I want to do is, there is a couple of things that exist in here as well. One of them is this custom shape. And by default, the custom shape is going to be on a new layer, right? And if I just touch it for the first time, it's going to make this shape. So this is kind of like a triangle that's in the right direction, which is kind of what I like. That's a pretty good shape that I like. We can make this bigger by going to Edit, and I want to go into Transform Scale, and I can scale this up. I'm just going to use the Shift key to make it proportionally. I can use the Shift key. Let's try that again. To proportionally shift everything up. So I'm kind of making it so it's pretty big. There we go. And then what I want to do is just slide it so it snaps to, right? That's the middle of the screen. And I don't care if it's red right now. And then I can take a box, right? So again, I can go back down to some of these items. Instead of this one, let's use a rectangle. And then let's kind of draw a rectangle of some kind, and we can adjust it in a second. So we can make it so this is the middle, right? It kind of snaps to, which is kind of nice. And it kind of looks like this. Yay, right? Nice little arrow. But there's two different shapes here. There's the shape here and a shape here. And what we found was, if you highlight those two things and right click, you can merge layers, and then you can rasterize. And if you rasterize like this, then what we can do is we can go into the gradient and go into the paint bucket tool, and I can change it to white, which is what I kind of came up with, right? And then what you can do is you can take that thing we drew and save it as File, Export as PNG, and we're going to call it arrow, and we're going to save it inside of our GBC 2014, and it's Lab 11 Assets Textures, and save. Okay, that's that arrow. There we go. It says arrow 1, but that's okay. We can change the name. Then when I go back up here inside of my textures, I have an arrow. Let's rename it to arrow 1. Arrow, from arrow 1 to arrow. And then I want to put that arrow on top of the platform. But the problem is, if I attach a renderer here, it's going to hover kind of only in the corner, wherever this thing is anchored, right? So instead, we want to add a new arrow. So we add a empty game object. Or actually, what you could do to make it quick is take the arrow and pull it underneath the platform itself, just like something like that, right? It adds a sprite renderer automatically for you, but we need to put it in the proper layer order. So I'm going to put it as layer 1 or 2, and I want to reset it right to where it's supposed to be. Okay, and we can kind of move it down to where it's supposed to be, like 0.5 is up here, negative 0.5. Put negative 0.5 in there. It's in the middle, right? And then what I want to do is kind of move it over, and I want to use this tool right here, right? So I can grab the edges and move it across the entire span. So I can kind of say something like, hey, this arrow, this platform moves, right? Or something like that. And I can also make it so that it is proportional. right? Now, one thing that we didn't do with the arrow is we made it like transparent, but the arrow also has extra spaces. Um, so watch this one. And if notice that there's a little bit of a top here and then the bottom, and what you can do is you go to image and we can go to trim, and trimming the image kind of cuts this down. So I can save that. So I export that again. So file, export as PNG, and save, and then choose arrow where we're going to replace it. And then when I go back to Unity, it's going to re-import that. And you can see that when I go back to that arrow, you can see it's pretty thin. Let's put that back, make it a little bit fatter so it kind of expands to fit the entire thing. This is pretty big, right? This is pretty big. And I wouldn't mind the arrow being semi-transparent. So in the arrow's color, we can change this to maybe 50% transparent. I'm going to go to 0.5 and maybe even less than that, maybe 0.3, something like that. Okay. And the reason why I want that is because I can see the arrow, but I don't want it to kind of take up my space. And when I color it, it's going to show me what the arrow looks like. Oh man, how come I can't see the arrow? Well, if I put it as a 2, I find that order and layer of 2 works better. So let's do that. So order and layer 2 is where what we want it to go. And if I go back, we can see the arrow like this. So we know that this is something that's happening with this thing. And again, if you don't like the big arrow, you can try and do something else. There we go. There's 2 things that this does. It tells us where we're going, right? And so tell us to go that way. And then on top of that, it actually makes us go that way. So we're going to see this again. What about if the arrow is something we want to use for the stuff that we already have? So I have some. This is my platform. Let's rename this first. Let's call this the sliding platform. Sliding platform. And let's take this and drag it into the prefabs folder so we can preserve this. Let's make an original. And then let's double click on the prefabs folder original and then do a couple things, some housekeeping, right? It says arrow, that's nice and everything. Maybe, in my opinion, it's probably a little bit too big. So again, you can take this arrow and modify it so that we can see the top of the platform a little bit. Maybe it's only going to be in the bottom part of the platform that basically says, hey, here's the top, but there's something that's happening here. There's something that's telling you that it's going this way. And if you don't like this, if you don't like it being stretched like this, that's okay. We can always revert back to the size that it originally was, right? So we can always do that, right? So again, so draw mode, simple, and everything else. Notice that the scale is 3 something. We can just go back to 1. And you can put this arrow right in the middle or somewhere where you feel that it is, more useful. And having an arrow anywhere that's showing you what it does, it kind of makes the platform unique in some way. Again, if I change it here and if I go back to my game, it changes it here as well. And now when I run it, you can see that this is pretty good. Okay, simple, clean, and it tells me something to do. That there's something that's happening there. Further than that, I have some props, and one of them that I've grayed out is a block, right? And this block right here, let's suppose we move this block from here all the way so that it spawns something like on top of this to show the player what it does ahead of time before me doing anything. So again, if I run it now, you can see that it kind of does this. Let's try it again. And it kind of shoves me out of the way too. Look at that. So starts and then boom, it kind of makes that go down like this, right? Well, maybe that's too fast, and we figured out that the block is too heavy because the block right now from a rigid body perspective is like gravity scale 5, okay, but mass is 10. Let's make that mass something like, 0.1, like the player, right? And now let's try that out. So do that, and it won't probably kick as far, and even if it does, it's okay. And probably what would be nice is if we keep on spawning these blocks, right? So, they can do what they're supposed to do. Spawn a block, It's going to go here, and we can show that. We can also angle this thing. That's another thing we could do. So, but here's they're going to see a problem here when we do that. Okay, whenever we angle a platform that has tiles inside of it, yep, we're going to have some issues. And let's try this out like so to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's see what it looks like in the game. Okay, so far it's okay, right? Let's make sure that this actually spawns back here so we can see what happens. And let's reduce the speed of the platform, because maybe 15 is too fast. And let's move this down to 10. And also, because this is a platform, let's put it in place, which is the active platforms area. That's where I want it to put it in. So if I press play, then we'll see that this is going to hit. And that's better. So now we can see that this platform does what it's supposed to do. It informs us what's happening. It tells us the direction we want to go. And it also says that, hey, this platform is a sliding platform. Cool. Let's do overrides. And let's, now one thing is the override. We don't want to change the, this part, the rotation. But we do think that probably 10 is a good starting speed. So inside of the platform, the sliding platform, let's change the speed to 10. There we go. So now that's changed. Awesome. Let's put this up on GitHub. So file save project, and let's close this down and put it up on GitHub. Okay, so back to GitHub. We have some changes, and we're going to say added sliding platform, which is also something you can call a conveyor platform or something like that, conveyor belt. And you can make the platform actually look different. Like I'm just using the slides, the tiles to do things. But we can use whatever we want, some other texture that looks like a conveyor belt, which may be better. And you can also make it animated, so it actually gives us some feedback that something's happening. All right, but we don't have to, because at least the arrow tells us, it informs the player what's happening. Okay, that's also something that's going on. All right, cool. And awesome, we got that platform in there. What about another platform? And this platform is kind of the ones similar to the ones we've seen with Mario, right? Where I'm just going to move the spawn point here away because we don't want this to interfere. I'm going to move the spawn point over here, okay? And with Mario, what happens is they're able to jump through the platform, and there's like a one-way collision. From the bottom, they're able to jump through no problem. From the top, they can stand on the platform. We could code this, or let's just use a platform again. Here's another platform. And let's put it like right here. So the player spawns, and then if they jump, they can jump through the platform and land on this platform. Let's make this platform green. So again, I want to kind of take the script that we have, which is the color controller, put it onto the platform, right? Choose a green color, like something like a lighter green color. Make sure that the alpha transparency is 1 for the color, right? There it is for the green color. And that's where the platform is going to be. So it's going to look like this. And what we want is for us to go through the platform, okay? That's what I want it to go through. I want to go through the platform and land on the top, right? We've seen in so many other things. There's a thing for that. So let's add in a platform effector. That's the one I did by accident earlier. I want to trigger the effector here, use by effector, right? And it says one way, use one way, right? You can, by the way, you can not use one way if you really don't want to, right? And the other thing is for the sides. How do you want the sides to work? Do I want friction for the sides? Yes. Do I want it to bounce off the sides? Yes, I do want that. But I want it to be able to go through the platform. Let's see how that works. Pretty simple. So I go here, and if I go through, oh, I can totally go through the platform. But there's a bit of a glitch, because if I'm pressing the button when I'm going through the platform, it's almost like I'm getting a bit of a boost, right? Maybe that's what I want to do. Maybe it's a feature, not a bug, and I want to use the platform not only as a jump through platform, like some kind of two-way platform, but also I want to indicate to the user what they need to do. So again, just like we did before, I want to take this platform, call it two-way platform. All right, I'm going to take this platform and put it inside of our environment and drag and drop it into active platforms. Here it is. And just because we already have a sliding platform with an arrow, let's take that sliding platform arrow. I don't want to do it again. And I want to copy that thing. So Control D, grab that thing and put it inside the two-way platform, and then just reset the numbers. So reset. Here it is. And that is inside my two-way platform. We're just going to call this the arrow. And we'll start off with arrow 0. And I don't want this arrow to be this way. What I want is for the arrow to be upwards. So I want to put the arrow in place and rotate it. Let's say 90 degrees. And let's compress it a little bit so that it looks like more of an arrow that is like this. So fatter arrow this way. And I want to put it in different places. I want to maybe make a few arrows, one here, one there, and one in the middle. So let's kind of duplicate this, Control D. So there's one in the middle, Control D, and one at the other end. Something like this. And again, you can be systematic about it as opposed to what I'm doing. Right now I'm just using my, my eye, but you can kind of do 3.5, right? This is at negative 0.5 to make it exactly where it's supposed to be. And these ones can be at negative 0.5 and 0.5. And this is going to be negative 0.5. And on the other side, it's like 6.5. Let's see what 6.5 looks like. Yeah, that might be okay. And so I've got these arrows, and they're looking this way. And now when I run it, you can see that this is pretty good in terms of informing the player what to do, right? Right? So it's kind of a jump platform or a two-way platform is what I like to call it, but it doesn't matter. So I can save that. And again, if you really want to stop the extra double jump, when this particular platform, you can name it as something unique. When I connect with this thing as opposed to the other thing, we can say, well, the player won't be able to jump with this one. It'll disable the extra jump until they land, right? Until they pass through and collide with it. So there's things you can do to make it work like that. All right, so that is the second platform. Let's file, save project, and we're moving along nicely, right? And let's put this up on GitHub. So again, going back to this, we want to say that we want to view changes, and we want to stage them all. I want to say that we added a two-way platform. Okay, so commit all. And then once we've done that, we can push. What about execute always? Execute always forces a script to execute regardless of whether it's triggered or not. And regardless of even if it's in the scene, be careful about it, right? So I would avoid using those kind of things unless you have a problem to solve or you're debugging somehow one way or the other, okay? So one sec here. Okay. All right, so now that we've got this, let's continue. If I run this back again. So we've added the two-way platform, we've added the sliding platform. What about other kinds of platforms? Okay, so let's add another one. And the other one that I want is one where we have a platform that can, um, like a tilting platform. And by the way, we can expand, now that we have some of these, we can expand our scene a little bit. So we can say that, okay, cool, well, here is a enemy. And what we want to do is we want to say that, what if the enemy wanted to go on another platform up here? And this platform up here is going to be a tilting platform. So yes, it's better than being down here and being attacked by the enemy, but maybe not as good as, kind of running through it. So the tilting platform will be up here. That's what I want it to be done. The other thing is that we can probably say that, okay, when they get to this, they fall off and they land on another platform that is similar to what we've already done. So let's continue with this. So I'm going to say that the sliding platform is going to be here. You can pull that in there, right? And you know what? If you don't jump fast enough, you're going to die, right? So we're going to say that we can also combine that with the other platform, which is the two-way platform, right? So so again, just to note, the one thing to note is I forgot to put that into the environment. I made a two-way platform, but I never made this into a prefab. So let's do an original prefab there. Call it two-way platform. I'll be okay. And let's put that sliding platform back in there. Cool. And let's put that two-way platform in here. So this is the two-way platform. So we'll say that, hey, if you get to this point, and if you can slide under here before it slides you off, you can get up to here and it'll get you to the next level. All right. And we don't have to go so close for the two-way platform. We can bring it up a little bit, like so. So you can probably get there from here too. I'm trying to skip this and get there, but it'll get you up to where you're supposed to be. Okay, so that's where we have right now. And that is part of our level. All right, cool. Save. All right, and let's grab this two-way platform, put it in active platform, so keep organized. And that's good. But what we want is another option for us here. So if I grab this platform and put it here, and this one, what I want it to do is I want it to, tilt. So when you grab and you jump on this platform here, yes, it could be another alternative to getting hit by these enemies, but I want it to tilt. It's going to be a danger or a trick to get through this, right? And we can have multiple of these to get over. So tilt, tilt, and then to get to this safe spot over here. So let's do two of these. Well, let's build the first one. So again, scripts, let's grab our color controller and put it on there. Let's make the color that's going to be there, maybe a yellow color. There we go. And again, let's make sure that alpha transparency is 1. Cool. And let's also bring the character spawn point closer so we don't have to make it there for now. So I'm going to grab that spawn point, and we're here now, let's say. And let's see how that looks. So we can see the character will spawn there. Okay. And that's what the platform is going to look like. Good. And what we want to do is when the player's here at this platform, it's going to tilt. So the way we can do that for that platform, and we can call this the tilting platform, just preemptively, tilting, is we're going to add a hinge. And there's a hinge joint 2D that we can add in. The hinge joint 2D that is built into Unity's physics adds in a rigid body 2D, right, as well as a hinge joint 2D. In fact, the rigid body 2D is required by the hinge joint 2D. So a couple things to do. One, we can't have a rigid body here or this whole thing will fall down on them. So we have to add some constraints. But we don't want to rotate, we don't want to constrain the z-axis, so it can still tilt around. Okay, so it kind of turn when we need it to. All right, so that's the one thing we want. The rest, I'm not going to really change. I'm not going to change these things. And down on the bottom for the hinge joint, there's a couple of options. One, you can make it work automatically, or you can turn on a motor so that it always works. And this is in degrees per second. So if I wanted to turn this motor on now just to observe, I could do it, but then the hinge joint is only going to rotate around here. So if I run this and see what it looks like, you can see that it rotates around wherever this hinge joint is, right? Let's turn the motor on. And it's really ugly. Look at that. Look how it kind of messed with this thing, and it's pretty bad. And you can see that the motor speed is what we want to turn on there, and it's not working because, well, weird stuff is happening. Let's go put this back on and put this back on and do it again. Okay, so we don't want to freeze it on the X and Y, but we definitely want to freeze it on, we don't want to freeze it on the Z, I mean, but freeze it on the X and Y. And maybe this is going to work to some degree, but you can see the hinge joint is like conflicted. So why? Well, it's weird that we have it there, right? That's the first thing in the tilting platform. What we really want to do is move this, and we can enable collisions. We can move the object. Let's try this again first before we can try. It should be able to tilt from there too. Isn't that weird? I need to put in the rigid body as well. It was really weird. It worked earlier, just exactly the same way, but whatever. Let's move the hinge joint around. So one thing we can do is the anchor is something we have to watch with, right? The anchor should be something in the middle, something in there. So probably something like 3.5. And it should move down, right? So like something like negative 0.5, something like that. So that's where the anchor should be. And let's see now if it has enough speed to be able to move things. Again, it's based on the mass of the object. There we go. And now it's pretty janky. Look at that. Look how janky that is, right? And it's really janky because there's a lot of these little tiles and stuff like this that make up the thing, and it's trying to figure out what to do, right? So it works, but it's janky, and the reason for it is because these things here are not all one image, right? They're a bunch of images, and what it's trying to do is it's parented to this empty tile platform, and each of these things is kind of running along with this one, and Unity's having a lot of trouble moving things around. Okay, like tons of trouble doing this. So what then can we do? How could we move things around? Thanks, Julian. Welcome. How could I move things around and yet, you know, and not have that trouble? Well, we could make it so that it is the tile set itself. If you notice, and all these things, right? These are all different sprites, and we're saying the draw mode is simple, right? They're not tiled because that would mean each sprite would be tiled, right? We don't want that, or sliced. And the mask interaction is there's no mask interaction, so there's nothing really we can do here necessarily. Okay, we really can't do anything there. We could change the sprite's default. All right, so one thing that we have is a default sprite material. We could do that. We can make our own material. I've tried this before, and sometimes it works. Let's add a new material. And what we want to do is we want to make it 2D. So we want to make it so that it is not a UI, but it's a sprite. And where it's a sprite default, this is kind of what we want, sprite default material. But what might help is we can enable GPU instancing, all right? And that might help a little bit, okay? Again, not sure. We can call this our platform material, And then if I took these things, and instead of my sprite's default, put in my platform material in there, right? Maybe it will perform better with GPU instancing. Now, again, this is on my computer. Who knows what this is going to look like on the phone, right? Because GPU on the phone, or how about on WebGL, right? So not much change there, right? And that's this. That's this using sprites default. There's also other ones we can try. So these are shaders we can try for this one to see how it renders. So sprites diffuse and is something we can also try, right? But then it gives us this. Diffuse means that it's looking for some kind of lit material. So for lighting, we can light it up. And the other one is a sprites mask, which again just takes it away, right? So that's not something that we want. So really, if we're going to do our own, it's going to be sprites default. And it says the render queue is from shader, right? and even if we enabled GPU instancing, it didn't really do anything, right? Just FYI. So this is actually a performance, it's computationally expensive to do that, so I don't recommend it. Get rid of it. Now let's put it back to the default sprite for now. Okay, we're going to replace it eventually, but so default. And yeah, that would be default too. So that is an issue when it comes to rotation. And it's not because of the camera or anything, it's the way things are rendered. What you're trying to do is something very complex to move things around. And there's a bunch of tiles that are moving around a central point, and the physics is struggling to redraw everything. Okay, just letting you know. So tilting platform can work, but it's best to use a single object to put together. And we're going to do that with our program in a second. But first, let's make sure this works the way we want it to work. We don't care about motor to use the motor. We want to put the motor speed to 0. We want to jump on the platform. And when we're there, we want the platform to tilt. That's where we want it to go. So save and then run. And let's see if that works if we're just there. How does that work? And how does it look too? So if I jump onto it, yep, there it is. And then what we want it to do is it's supposed to stop tilting eventually, right? That's what we want it to do, that thing. So not bad, all right, in terms of the way it works. And I want to be able to jump on there and then jump off of there, and it should be okay. Okay, so that's what's something. So we jump in the middle somewhere, that's the tactic. We jump in the middle, we can avoid falling to our death anyway, and we can avoid this whole line of enemies. Okay, it would be nice if we had some kind of arrows to tell us what this thing does. And well, we do have some. We have a couple of them actually. We have this one and this one. We can duplicate these, and we can drag and drop them into the other platform, right? So we can say that we want those in the tilting platform, right? So all the way here. And we can do a couple things. We want to be able to reset them because they're not going to show up at all. So again, in the transform, we want to reset at least this part. And the same thing goes with the other one. Okay. We can put the second one, so this is we'll make it 2 arrows. Make it an up arrow, and we'll make this the down arrow. So we'll show a different view of everything. So this is the down arrow. We're going to put this at 6.5, and this will be at negative 0.5. And this one will be at negative 0.5, and kind of over here, which is 0.5. But this one, we want it to go the other way around. So show a different kind of arrow. This is the down arrow, which we'll just invert to scale on the x-axis. Do that. All right, so that is your tilting platform. It gives, again, it informs the player that something's up, right? That it's going to do something, right? Nice. Okay, so that's what that does. So now we have our tilting platform. Let us make that into a prefab by dragging and dropping that into our prefabs folder. So tilting platform, hello. And let's make it an original. For the tilting platform, let's do some housekeeping. So what I want to do is in the platform, I always like my rigid body on the top and my hinge joint just below the box collider. So it's kind of done that for us in the color control down here. So this has all been done for us. If there's something else that had to be done here, then I would do it. But I think I'm pretty good with I'm pretty happy with what this is. So save, file, save project, and exit. And let's put this up on GitHub. So again, view changes, and we'll say added tilting platform. adding tilting platform. So stage all and commit all changes. And once we're committed, we'll push this up to GitHub. Cool. Questions so far about adding platforms? What are your thoughts? Good, bad, ugly? Would you do it differently? The reason why I'm showing you these, by the way, and this is for the people both on GatherTown and on Zoom. Most of you are the same people. I think you're all the same people now. So one of the things to note about this is that there's issues, right? There's issues around this problem. And some people might say, well, I don't like the arrows, or I want to show my platforms looking different. And that's cool. I agree with that. I think the platform should look different than what they look like right now, right? But this is a good first step to kind of maybe just designing it so that that informs the player something that's happening, okay? You can add sounds too. When you're stepping on a platform and it's supposed to do a certain thing, you can make it so that it sounds different and all that kind of stuff as well. Okay, back to this. So now that we have a couple of platforms and we have one that's a tilting platform and we have one that's here, we want to get to this final platform, let's say over here again. Let's suppose this one over here is the final platform. And maybe what we want to do is we want to make it so that they come up here and then from here they jump on the final platform and that's it. Again, this is just an example of what this would be like. I'm going to click on the platform layer and I'm going to add in the open tile palette. I'm going to go in and grab one of the platforms I already predefined and just put it into place. So this is where I want this to be. So kind of final places, right? Final thoughts of where this is going to be. Let's add actually some additional stuff in here, make it a lot longer. So I started with this one and we'll make it like a lot longer. Bottom. And we can make it so that this is the final platform, okay? Doesn't matter. And on that, let's change from the platform layer to the background layer. So we're targeting with the same tile set, and we'll grab something that looks like an area that might seem like the end. And I'll grab some of these bricks and we'll put it around the area. How about we undo that one? And try again. There we go. And we can add some other things in here to decorate it, to make it seem that, hey, we're kind of at the end. All right, so maybe some grass on the platform, and something else. I don't know. But, if you really want to, you can always show something in the background from the other stuff, the trees or whatever. Let's say woods, where you can have a trunk of a tree. And this trunk of the tree could be here. This could be the start of another place eventually, as we kind of add, more to the tree. Eat some of this. Awesome. All right, so we have some kind of tree. 10 times. We want to do this kind of thing up here, and maybe some. Awesome. Okay, something like this. Doesn't matter. Yeah, maybe we'll even add one of those in there. For the thing. We want them to jump over here and die. I don't know. Anyways, however you want to do it, we've added an area where they want to get to, and getting there can be quite challenging, right? Because we have our player, and here's our player spawn point. And let's move the player spawn point back where it's supposed to, which is over here. And let's try and make it there. So there's some challenges, right? I mean, with some simple design, we've got some issues, right? Want to jump there, want to jump over this guy, do a speed run, jump on that. We want to do there, and then, oh man, we're back to the beginning again. You know, maybe we can do it, maybe we can't. And we have to time ourselves to make sure it happens, right? It remembered, and we're there, and we're running, and we're up here, and then maybe, oh man, that doesn't look so good. And then we're here at the end. Yay, we made it, right? So it's a bit challenging, but let's suppose it's really, really hard. Players get really frustrated when they die. We want to provide things like checkpoints. So again, back to the world layer, open up the palette, and let's fix some of that grass that was there that looked really bad. So yeah, this grass right here didn't come out so good, right? So it looks like, yeah, we put it in here, but it also, it has like this black area. It's not really transparent, which I'm surprised actually. So let's just wipe it out. Wait, undo. It should go back to the background layer, but this could be in the my foreground layer, like maybe another foreground layer that's there, and that is an issue. So that's why it's not looking very good, right? Because I think I used this tile. So I want to make sure I got the right tile, because that would be really terrible. I think it's this one. This one. It's going to look weird. It's not the right tile, but whatever. It's not terrible. Okay, how about that? Or maybe it's this one. Yes. Okay, so who cares? I'm here and we're good. We're at the end. We got this like end area, but it's really tough. What I want to do now is I want to think about, how do I make a checkpoint system? And this will be the last thing we do together today. So I want to add a checkpoint system. And right now, what it is we have one spawn point, and I want to add other places where the character can pass through. And then the character, when they pass through that, it's going to inform the game controller, right? That, hey, guess what? Our next spawn point, or our current spawn point, is something else. So let's change the game controller first. I'm going to do it differently than the last time. So instead of calling it the player spawn point, we're going to call it the current spawn point. So let's refactor, rename. Refactor, rename. We'll call this the current spawn point. Go. And we're also going to have a way of setting the current spawn point. So some kind of public void. We'll call this set current spawn point. We want to keep track of what that is. And we'll do is we'll say that current spawn point is equal to whatever we pass into this. This is a transform, right? And we want the transform.position to change, right? That's what we want. But the problem with this approach is this is our current transform, right? Our current spawn point. It's almost like this is our spawn point dot position, right? And I don't want to change the transform, just the position of the current spawn point itself. So when I drag and drop it in there, it's the position that I want to change. But what I want is actually pass in a transform here instead. So pass in a transform. And that transform is we're going to swap out the transforms. So transforms are going to be different. So I'm going to say the transform is going to be the new spawn point. Or the new spawn point. And that's what this is going to be. So current spawn point is going to be equal to new spawn point. They're going to be both transforms. And then whatever the current spawn point position is, that's going to change. Player position is going to be something that is going to be kind of, we're going to start off where this is. And then when the, if this changes, right, it's going to read the player position here. So one thing we have to do is we have to, whenever this current spawn point, it's just going to be a way of keeping track of what that thing is. So the transform is going to change. Okay, that's the first thing that's going to happen. All right, cool. And then the other thing that's going to happen is inside of the def plane, we're going to make this work like this first, then we'll see if it works. So def plane controller, the def plane controller says, hey, I want a reference to the player spawn point. Yeah, no, we don't want this anymore. Instead, we want the def plane controller to get the information from the game controller for what this is. Okay, so again, we're going to say that this will be a private game controller. Call this game controller. And just like we've done in the past, we'll rewrite the start function. We're going to say that game controller is equal to game object, and then we want to find object of type game controller. So this is going to find it kind of programmatically for us. We find the object, which is inside the scene. And instead of doing this, when the player hits the def plane, we don't want the current position, the player's position, to be the player spawn point dot position. Instead, we want to get access to the game controller, and we want to say whatever the current spawn point is dot position. That is what we want to use. Okay, we want to start off with something, and we want to start off with. So I'm just doing a bit of a rewrite on those two things. And what that means is in the game controller, right now we have nothing that is set for the current spawn point, and that's kind of the initial spawn point, which is the player. So we'll take that player spawn point and drag and drop it in there. So this should work identically. We should check this out first before we make any other changes. So run. And if I die, then I should go back to there, right? Every single time. All right, so now that I've got that working, I want additional ones. I want to be able to have another position. Now, and there's two parts to it. One part is where I'm going to move, and the other part is how I'm going to trigger the movement, right? So I need two parts. So let's add it in. First of all, let's take this tilting platform and put it inside the environment just to where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to go inside of active platforms just to clean it up. Okay, good. And I'm just going to add in something way out here. So I'm going to say something like, we want a new empty. And this empty object, we're going to reset it. So let's reset it. And let's add, we'll start looking at it. There it is. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to say that somewhere over here is where I want this thing to be. Okay. Because this is the next platform. I'm saying, let's say I made it past this platform. We'll test it over here. How's that going to work? Cool. So this will be the actual checkpoint. Okay, and the checkpoint is going to have two subpoints. One of them is going to be the transform where it's going to go. So that is the actual spawn point. So again, create empty, call this spawn point. And then we also need a trigger, right? So create empty. We want a trigger. And the trigger is going to be basically a trigger collider. So we're going to add in a box collider 2D. We're going to make this a trigger point for this one. Okay. So right now it starts off like this, but really what we want to do is, and let's do some other things here. Let's add some colors for this. So we'll say that for the spawn point, it's going to be red or an orange color. And for the trigger, it's going to be blue. Okay. So we want it to trigger, let's suppose, here. And we want it to, sorry, let me undo that. We want the trigger to move here. Did I tag the wrong thing blue? I did. And we want the spawn point to be, let's say, orange, and the checkpoint to have nothing. Did that change something else? Good. Yeah. All right. So that's what it's going to be like. So the blue, so for the blue one, which is the uh, trigger, this one, we want to change this thing so that it is centered. And I want to make it so that it is like the size on the y-axis is like something like 8. And the size on the x-axis is like, really small, like 0.1. We just wanted to pass through. 0.5 might be safer because it'll hit the trigger even if it's really, really fast. Okay, so that's one thing we wanted to do. And what I want to do is I want to move this thing so that it stays here relative to the actual spawn point. And then the actual spawn itself, if this is the trigger, then the spawn will be something above the trigger, something like this. So this is the trigger, and this is the spawn point. And this is the checkpoint. Checkpoint itself will be here, and so I can move this thing wherever I want it, right? Okay, let's make this a prefab. Yeah, there's my prefab. And let's add some code. So one thing is that the trigger is going to know, because it has a box collider, right? And its box collider is going to trigger the collision detection. Okay, so let's add a script here that does that. So scripts on the trigger point itself, let's add that in. Create a new C# script. And that C# script is going to be the checkpoint trigger controller. A big one, but that's okay. We can call it whatever we like. And we're going to the trigger, and we're going to drag and drop it. Okay. And because this is a prefab, we can go and apply all. So now all prefabs have that. Double click, and we can say that, okay, on private void, on, on trigger. So again, on collision 2D, right? On trigger enter 2D, on trigger enter 2D, where we say that the collider 2D is equal to the other. On trigger enter 2D. Then what we want to say is if the other dot game object dot compare tag is the player, right? If it's only the player object, we don't care about the other ones. Then we want as soon as it goes through, we want to change the game object, the game controller, so that the new location, right, for the trigger is its sibling, which means the spawn point right here. That's the spawn point that we want to change. So this spawn point, the transform of the spawn point is something we want to change. So let's find the spawn point, right? And again, there's a couple ways to do this. We could drag and drop, and we could try to find it, right? But I think the best way for now is to drag and drop it. So we're going to say public transform, and we'll call this spawn point. Okay, and we'll say that it's going to be this one. Let me list it here. It's going to be this one that we're going to drag and drop this spawn point to. Again, there's different ways of doing this. I'm just thinking about a way that might be easy for us. By the way, earlier, not easy. All right, so cool. We got the spawn point, and we want to make it so that when the player goes there, the spawn point is going to be the new spawn point that's going to be set on the game controller. It's going to switch spawn points. All right, so we're going to say that, hey, we need access to the game controller as well. So we're going to say private game controller, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say, hey, game controller. That's going to equal to game object, find object of type game controller. And we're going to say, cool, when you collide with this object, then what I want is let's set game controller.set current spawn point to my transform. That's what it is. Okay, we don't need an update function for this. And that's all we would need. Okay, that is for each spawn point. Okay. Awesome. There's an issue. We'll talk about it in a second, but let's see what the issue is going to be. So let's say I want now this transform. I want it to be, I want to take the whole checkpoint and I want to move it. So let's try it out. So let's go, I want to move this checkpoint up here. There we are. Okay. And again, we can override whatever we want. It looks like the trigger is what the trigger script is what we override. We overrode. That's fine, right? But this is the first position. So if we go there and if I fall down here, it should work, right? Let's try it out. So run. Oh man, trigger, not an actual collider. Ah, terrible. Let's try that again. Because now it was actually a collider, not a trigger. All right, let's try that again. So he goes through it and I die. There I am, right? Now, if that's not good enough, so for example, if the trigger, if the spawn point's not cool, let's move it up a little higher so we can move it in there, right? And again, you can adjust this for every checkpoint, but let's make it a standard. So again, we're going to say let's override the transform of the spawn point, and let's try that again. So it's going to start from there, it's going to come down. So if I make it there, then I'm going to go here. And this is just kind of the test. So I pass through it, and then bam, we're here again. And if I jump here, right, and I fall down, then bam, I'm up here again. Okay. All right, so that is working, right? It looks like it's working. And I've got my checkpoint. Let's put it inside of the player. Let's make a new folder. So make a new empty called checkpoints. And let's put that player spawn point in there first. And let's take this checkpoint and put it in there too. And let's do another checkpoint. So let's go ahead and put a checkpoint there. And I grab it right from the prefab. So we'll say checkpoint. Let's put it in there. And we'll move that. So when we get to this platform, we have a checkpoint. And we'll do the same thing when we come over here to this platform over here, because we passed all this danger. And it's a little bit further out, but hey, the player should know how to play better by that point. Let's put another checkpoint in there. And let's suppose they get to way over here and they make it to this and somehow they die near the end, like they're here and somehow they tilt down and die. Oh, then we want to make it to that checkpoint too. So let's like put that in there. Of course, there's no danger here yet, but we're going to add danger. Okay, cool, so that's it. Let's try this out and see if this works. And then we'll put all those checkpoints in the right spots. Hopefully it's not janky like it was in the first iteration that I did. And the first iteration, we did something different, which is really bad. I'll talk about it, but I won't do it again. So up here, we're in here, jump over that guy. Oh, we fell, but we made it here, right? Made it to this. Now we're over here. Oh, didn't quite make it there, but we're there. We're going to wait because this is bad. This tilting platform we can see in our little monitor is pretty bad. All right, look at that. And, oh, didn't quite make it. All right, we made it through that time. Right now, if I die, we should go back to there. Cool. And up here, we're good. Oh, oh no. Okay. Cool, we made it there, but we die somehow. And the way to check this, that it works, and it's going to work nicely now, is if you look at the game controller. The game controller is going to show you the current spawn point, whatever that is. So it shows you, this is the checkpoint that we're looking at. Checkpoint 2. So let's put these checkpoints in place. So checkpoint, we're going to put that in there. And this will be checkpoint 2, actually. This will be checkpoint 1. We can rename them. And this will be checkpoint 3. And this will be checkpoint 4. Again, you don't have to do it this way, but I think it's okay. So this is checkpoint 3. This is checkpoint 2, right? And this is checkpoint 1. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Checkpoints, waypoints, call it whatever you like, right? All right, so that is that part. Let's save that. Questions around this? Do you agree? Do you not agree? What are your thoughts? Do you think this is a good way of doing things? How about disadvantages of this? Now, some people also think that there is, what if I wanted to go back? Like if I want to backtrack, am I allowed to go back in a game? And do I care about doing that? Let's say I have some gems, because we have some gems that we want to collect. Let's say we don't have any of those right now. But let's say, for example, I want to put some gems in place to get the player to want to go to that particular platform. There's no reason for us to go through this whole level. I mean, there must be some kind of enticement to go through in the first place, right? So let's add in some gems after this. So save, file, save project, and we'll exit. And we'll put this up on GitHub as the checkpoint system. Very simple, by the way. There's definitely, we can do other things. We can add in a checkpoint controller. We can change the game controller so that it is a singleton. There's lots of stuff we can do. Okay, so we're going to say added simple checkpoint system. Okay. And push. Okay, questions on any of these guys? So how do you feel about this part? Okay, not bad. Yes, you would do it. No, you wouldn't. All right, what are your thoughts? Okay. Herman says very simple. Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I mean, there's different ways of doing things. You can definitely make it more robust. You can make it so that it's more of a, there's other ways of doing things, but this way you just drag and drop this in. Now there's dependencies. The game controller and it's a kind of a triple dependency here, because we have the death plane that depends on the game controller, and the game controller depends on the checkpoints. So it's kind of like a triple threat in terms of, if one thing is not there, none of it's there. And that maybe is not what we want. Okay, maybe we want something different than this. All right, but again, as a simple solution to our problem right now, this is looking pretty good. Okay, last thing is, wouldn't it be nice if we had some kind of gem or something that the player can go for, a pickup? We haven't done any kind of UI either, but we kind of covered that earlier this semester. So, where can we add a gem or something like that you can pick it up, and where are we going to get it from? Well, again, going to external assets, if we look at Sunnyland first, let's see what kind of artwork it has. There's under sprites, we have enemies, FX, items, and player. Let's look at items. We have a gem, and it looks like there's a gem that looks like this. Let's use this gem. And we'll change the pixels per unit to 16, just like we've done before, and apply the changes. We'll also use a resize format of bilinear. It's going to be clamp no filter because it can be pixel perfect. That's what we want for this to be. And we want to drag and drop our gem somewhere where the player can get it, and so that they're enticed to go up there in the first place. We'll put it right here. So drag and drop. And it's going to say, hey, I want to make this new animation. Where do you want to put this? Under Assets, Animations. Instead of UI, we're going to make a new folder called Gem. The Gem animations. Gem. Not gems. Okay, we'll say Gem Idle is what we're going to call it. The Gem Idle clip. go. And the gem idle clip, if we go to the clip itself under animations from the gem, we can see we have two parts, the gem idle clip and the gem controller. Gem animation controller. Let's rename those things so they're nice. And well, where is the gem? It's here, but we can't see it because order and layer has to be something like 1, or we can see what it looks like. Okay. And we probably want to put it closer down so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, let's see how this looks and go. Cool. To make it even better than this, right? Because it looks pretty small, right? We want to jump up and then we want to kind of get onto the gem itself. And as soon as I touch the gem is picked up. That's what I want to do. All right, and we want to make a gem sound as well. We want to make that gem sound. So we'll call this the gem. But let's make it do its own little thing. So I'll add a little script to it. So we'll have a gem controller, C#, call it the gem controller. And for now, all the gem controller is going to do is going to make a sound, and it's going to actually animate this thing to spin. So we're going to say a new private void method called spin gem. Man. Okay, and what spin gem will do is every frame it's going to rotate it across, kind of the, as if it's a 3D object, right? So across the y-axis, actually, right? So let's see how that will look. And we have to modify where the gem is in local space as well. So some other stuff to make it work. So how is this going to work? Well, we want to say that the transform, we want to rotate, right? Now, rotation is a quaternion, but if I go transform rotate, and if I rotate around, that's the other one, I can produce a couple things, an axis. This is a vector 3 thing, not a vector 2 thing, and some kind of angle every frame. So rotates the object around the given axis by the number of degrees defined by the given angle. So I want to say that vector 3 dot up is the axis, and the angle in degrees, let's say 5.0 f. So something like not too fast in terms of what we want to do. Okay. So we want to call this rotate and rotate it up, but there's going to be some funky things that happen because it's a 2D object we're rotating in 3D. See how that looks. So does it do it? How about we attach it? Gem controller, where are you? And we don't need the renderer or the animator yet, but we do need the gem controller because we're going to use the gem controller for other things, for sounds and for other stuff, right? Oh yeah, it's way too fast, right? At 5. So let's make it even slower. Let's make it so that it's really slow, like 1. And let's see what that looks like. And this, we're doing hard-coded values. And whenever we do hard-coded values, you got to think about we should expose it on the inspector, right? Again, weird that it's working, but that's okay. A couple of effects happening at the same time. All right, and what I want to do here is in the inspector and the gem, let's do the rotation speed. So public float rotation speed. And that's what I want to do here, rotation speed. And we can make this so this is a range between something like 0.1 f and 2.0 f. Nothing too crazy. So we limit how fast this is for the user when they use the gems, so that way it's not like maybe some rotate faster and whatever. Cool, like it. All right, so we can say that the rotation speed is going to be something like, 0.9. I think that's still too fast. And let's see how that looks. Right, cool. And what about if I wanted to change the color of the gem? Well, I have that color controller, but the color controller kind of looked inside my platform. Yeah, see, I had the platform color, and that was kind of weird. And I looked through the platform, but I want to say, like, what if I want to color the gem, and I want to do it some with the code? I mean, I could do this. Each gem could have its own. I can just go to the sprite renderer itself and change the color. And if you notice, if I just change this to green, let's in a second, you see immediately the change is going to take effect, right? So it's green gem as opposed to a red gem or whatever it's going to be, right? It's pretty good. I mean, for me to make it go there and attach a color and try and make it so that the script does it, yes, it can be done with some code, but I don't see the usefulness of it. So that's pretty cool. So that's the gem. But I want to make it do noises. So let's use chip tone for that really quickly, like we've done in the past. So chip tone. And in chip tone, we want to make a pickup. So some kind of coin sound. No. Sure. And that's a pretty simple sound. We'll make this the gem sound, right? We'll say gem sound. And we'll put it inside of assets audio. So the gem sound. So it'll definitely be an impulse sound. So there's a hit, jump, spit, and a gem sound. Let's put that in there. Okay. And now that we've done this, we have the gem sound in there in the audio, right? So that's in the impulse sounds, gem sound. And what we want to do is we want to take that gem sound and put it in there. So we'll just add it in as an audio source and move it up. And let's put it so that it's not so loud. Let's put it at something like 0.6. That's probably a good thing. We can also check that out and see what it sounds like. So gem sound, what does it sound like here? Right? And it'll probably be less than half of that. Okay, something like that. Whenever we get this, we had a gem. Cool. Excellent. And that's good. And let's play that sound whenever our player connects with it. We're going to play the gem sound. All right, so that's what's going to happen. All right, cool. And let's do that. So we don't want to play on awake. And now, question for you guys. The gem sound is going to be part of the gem. When the player connects with the gem, we need some way of them connecting. So we need some kind of box collider or another type of collider here altogether. Let's just take away the gizmos for now to add it in. So we're going to say I want a box collider 2D. Right, let's put the gizmo back. Box collider 2D is pretty boxy for me. And it might be better to use something like a circle collider instead. Let's remove that. Try another one. So a circle collider. All right, there we go. That's better, and it's probably good enough, but let's make it even closer because that's the kind of people we are. There we go. So it's kind of close, tight in. Circle collision is pretty good. We're going to make it a trigger, not a regular collider, and we're going to move it up. And we're going to move it way up, right underneath the animator. Okay, so circle collider 2D. All right, so we have a way of colliding. We have the gem itself, and we know we can get a reference to the gem sound. So, so this is, again, if you want to specify a header for the gem, this will be the speed, or we call it movement for now. And then we can also have another thing in here for the audio. So we'll say a public audio source, which will be the gem sound or the pickup sound, right? And that public pickup sound, we're going to get a reference to it. We're going to say that pickup sound is it going to be get component, audio source, And what we want is when the player, only the player, hits the gem, it makes that sound. So let's do that. So we'll say that public void on trigger enter 2D, and then collider 2D, other, and we'll say that if the other dot game object dot compare tag, we've done this before, is player, then play the gem sound. So we'll say that pickup sound dot play. Okay, make that pickup sound, and when the player hits it. But we also want to make the gem go away. Okay, we want to make the gem go away. And there's a couple ways to do this. The gems aren't going to actually go away. We could do two things. We could keep the gem, or kind of hide the gem. But if we wanted to destroy the gem, that would be an issue, because by the time I play this thing, right, for us to destroy the gem, we want to wait to do that, right? And that needs a coroutine. We want to kind of make a coroutine, right? And the coroutine would be, okay, I want to wait for seconds and then destroy the gem. So coroutine, how would that look like? So again, it's an I enumerator, right? That's what it returns. It's going to be private, and it's going to be something like destroy gem, destroy gem. Okay. And what we want to return is we want to, and the right thing to do is we want to return, yield 4 seconds, that kind of stuff, right? So let me just go there and grab the code for that. So again, it would be if I said something like Unity coroutine, right? And if you look at coroutines, what they are, they're kind of like things that run in parallel. So here's an I enumerator, that's what it returns. And what we want to do is yield, return, and something. Okay, yield, return, and something. And but we want to do something like this: yield, return, do something, and then or we want to wait for a time delay before we destroy something, right? That's what we want to do, right? So we want to do something and then wait for a certain time. Okay, so that's what we want to do. So there's a lot of ways we can do this, right? Wait 4 seconds is what we want to do. Yield, return, wait 4 seconds, 2 seconds, and then destroy this thing. That's what we want to do, right? So let's think about this. So it's yield, return, right? And then new, wait 4 seconds. And I want to wait for, something like 0.5 seconds or 0.1 second, something like that. Like it's very close because it goes, did it? And that did it makes probably like 3 seconds before it goes away. We can try this out. And the time that we're waiting, again, we can say that how long we want to wait before we want to destroy, this thing. So wait 4 seconds this. And now here's what I want to do. I want to destroy, right, the object, which is this dot game object. That's what I want to do. I want to get rid of it, but I want to wait 4 seconds before I do that. So play the sound, and I want to, basically call the start coroutine. Start my coroutine where I want to, do something and then, play the sound. So wait for some time and then do it. Now, is this the right order? What do you think? Or is there something else I need to do? So start coroutine, destroy gem, right? What are your thoughts? And should I put this pickup sound in there? Should I pick the sound up, wait for seconds, and then? So let's see what happens when I do it this way. So the only way that's going to happen is destroy after wait. Absolutely, right? But can I do that? Can I go here and then put this after this? Well, we'll even get to this point is the challenge, right? And if that's the truth, then what I want to do instead of destroy gem is play gem sound. So refactor rename. So refactor rename. We'll call this play pickup sound. Play pickup sound. We'll get this and put it here. Wait for 3 seconds and then destroy the game object. That's what I really want. That's kind of the logic I want to say. Is this how coroutines work though? How does it work? Well, let's see and check it out and see if this works exactly like we think it does or not. And then we'll save the gem as a prefab and put them all over the place. All right, run it. So land. Kind of worked, right? I don't think we need to reduce the sound though. I think the sound for the gem sound pickup is probably too low. Maybe 1 is okay for this one. And how about the time frame? What do you think of the time frame? Do you think it was okay? It lasted too long, in my opinion, right? Let's go and change that back. So instead of 0.3, let's go to 0.2. We want to play that sound, but I don't want to keep playing it, right? So Herman has a solution. While M as is playing, yield return null. Otherwise, and then when you're done, destroy the game object. Yeah, I will definitely try that out. So that's okay too. It kind of worked for me. What do you think, Herman? Look, so I don't have to even do a thing. I mean, but I'm waiting. Instead of yielding return a few seconds, right? Again, not terrible, but it's not as good as yours. Yeah, I like it. All right, so that is this. That's how it works. We have our gem. It goes away. We don't do anything with it right now, but we're not getting points or anything like that. We're just getting the gems. So we can put that in there as a gem sound. And let's put that gem in different places to entice the player to go to the gem. So again, in the environment, there's props, and props are blocks, right? But we'll also have gems. So another empty object, which we'll call, pickups. And you can put that in there. Good. And let's grab another gem, put that in there too. And we'll take that gem and put that in here. And we'll make another gem, put that over here. So collect some gems. And maybe there'll be a gem that's down here, but not up here, right? Because that doesn't make sense. So put a gem that's down over here at the end. And we won't have a gem here because it would have to move with this one, but we will have a gem just beyond this point, right, to entice the player. And we won't have gems here, but maybe what we'll do is we'll have a gem that happens right there. So a couple of them, like 2, 3 of them that we have up there to see if they can get those. So maybe something like that looks like this. 1, 2, 3. And they're not in any particular place, but that's okay. And let's grab all these and we'll put them inside of here. There we go. So we can hide them up a little bit. And finally, we'll have an enemy that's out here that's going to basically stop the player from coming here. So we'll add another enemy in there too. There we go. All right, so that is the level that we've got so far. Let's see if we can play it and does it make any sense. There's other things we can do too. We can make the gem bounce up and down. Those are pretty simple things to do to make it easy. That's kind of a weird thing to do, right? Oh, we fell. What happens? We made it here. Oh, wow. Oh, God. Right? And now I got to wait for this guy to come. That was a bad thing that happened. So I want to kind of do this, right? I want to kind of jump on that thing, right? I want to wait till this platform changes position, and then, oh, let's knock that guy off. Oh, oh, but he's actually here, and that's a bug. That's a bug we found. Look, there he actually can't move the other way because they're colliding with each other, and that's not good. Oh, see you later. Get out of here, you. Oh no. Doesn't matter if I fall. I've already been there, so I'm good to go. Okay. Um, so pretty good. Some stuff that we found out was just to fix this up. Before we go, when these guys collide with each other, they don't turn around. So let's go back to the enemy script. Let's put that enemy back in there. And let's go into the enemy itself. So each enemy has that script, the enemy controller. So where it turns around, it would want to flip it and go the other way if it happens to contact something else, right? So we say that we look in front, and if we have a hit, we use a physics line cast. We use a wall layer mask. Okay, so in the enemy controller, this wall layer mask should also include other enemies, which I'm going to click on. That's all we need to do. And so if it connects with other enemies, then it's going to switch around as well. Let's see if that works. And so if I can point one enemy at another one. Oh, okay. What happened? So, oh yeah. Yeah, this happened to me before, where we kind of said, hey, you know what? This is a bug and a half. This is the first time this happened in a while. We're basically saying, look, you know what? Case one is polygon collider collides with the player, and the player is at the top of the list, right? And if the enemy line of sight collides with a game object compared to player, and the enemy line of sight collides with, as an example, the thing, then the problem was is this thing here collides with, right? Collides with is going to be empty, right? Because our line of sight, uh, kind of script, which is in here, uses something called collides with this thing. And the collides with object, when we want to try and see what it collides with, it sometimes is colliding with the other thing, which is if it's not a bullet. Well, it can't be a bullet, or it can't be its own, can't be something that of itself, like it can't be another object. So if not other game object compared tag bullet, and if the bullet, if it's not also colliding with, and it's not other dot game object, it has to be both things dot compare tag the enemy. Both things can't be true. You can't hit itself, right? Otherwise the collides with is equal to the other, right? Otherwise it's nothing. You don't have a collides with at all, right? Because you can't hit yourself, right? So that's something that we have to worry about. All right, let's try that again. Maybe that's not the issue, but we'll see shortly. This is the first time we've seen that, like ever. Okay, that actually was worse. Let's try that one more time. Enemy is not defined. Yeah. All right, because we never, so the tag is what we're saying. The tag, there is no enemy tag. Let's add an enemy tag. So enemy. And we'll say that all enemies are tagged as an enemy, not only a layer, but they're also tagged as that. And so from an override perspective, we want to change that. And let's clear that and go again. Wait, what happened now? Yeah, that's weird. Same issue. So it says enemy line of sight collider list dot count is greater than 0, right? But what is it really colliding with? It's colliding with me. Well, because we're making it so that it can collide with each other. And that's only because of what we put in there. So again, I think there's some more troubleshooting to be done here. I'm going to go back to what we did there. And I'm not going to do this for now. It requires a little bit more time than we have today. Okay. Not that I don't want to do it. I do. But I also want to give you some time to do some other things. So it's just going to troubleshoot. There's definitely, it's buggy the way we've been doing our line of sight. For sure. It needs another pass. All right. And this all got generated when I changed the enemy itself. When I change the enemy itself, when I'm looking at the wall layer mask to mixed, it should only include the wall, but not itself. And it's like what happens if I'm colliding with an enemy. And maybe we can do is instead of using this, we can use another regular collider, not a trigger collider for that, because there is an edge collider and a polygon collider that's a trigger, right? Those two things. And there's also a box collider that is not. And what we can probably do is in the enemy, just to quickly fix it. Not saying this is the best thing to do, but I also know that there's a lot going on with our scripts because we've tried different things. We have on collision enter and on collision exit. We can also add in on collision enter 2D if it's colliding with um, an enemy, right? So if I compare tag enemy for the other, when I'm entering that at all, if I touch the enemy, then I'm going to flip. So I'm going to do something like, it'll be another if statement, if other dot game object dot compare tag is the enemy. We'll do it here instead. Then we want to call flip, and that's when it'll be done. Okay, so we're using an actual collider for this when they actually touch. Again, not optimal, but it will be what it'll be. I don't want to belabor the point because this is adding something and breaking something else. Shouldn't have a problem now. Good. Okay, that is weird. Okay, that's kind of saying like, what is that thing? And that's why it's doing that, by the way, because there's and same thing goes with this. Like there's, okay, definitely broke something. Yeah, oh yeah, I definitely broke something. Let's see what's going on there. that enemy. What did I do differently here? Did I change something in line of sight? Did I let's save it, did I? Yeah, and if, just curious, why is it broken now? Fix something, break something else, my friends. That's how it goes. This is okay. These aren't. Oh, 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 wow. Okay, so he's able to see me. Why is it doing that? Okay. So the problem with this one is that it's colliding with itself. Look how close that thing is when it comes to his line of sight. And that's why it's flipping out. All right. So that's not a solution either, because that causes, in some cases, this issue. So for now, we're going to just say, this is a problem we need to fix for another day. Again, I don't want to belabor the point. I think we got most of the things we want done, but we're going to have to fix this problem because it's a bug. It's a known bug that the enemies, when they get together and they're there, they just stay with each other and they don't flip, because the way we did it, they're still damaged. Why is it that way? So this one seems to work fine, the first one. So this guy seems to be okay, right? This guy's not, and this guy's not. So let's, if I was going to take these guys out, so this guy, this guy, this guy over there, and this guy over here. And this guy over here is way over there. So let's take this guy out. And let's just put these guys back. So I want to say that prefabs, let's put another enemy in here. And let's see what happens, one at a time. I'm just curious to see what happens. And we're just gonna go and see what happens there. What is different about this guy? Well, it's definitely not happening here. This guy seems to be good. Let's use the overrides on this guy to apply all. And let's see what happens now. Whatever that was, fixed it. There. And we'll just grab that enemy and put him in there. And we'll take that guy, put him way over there, where I wanted him. There. And was he there? No, he was actually on this thing. It's cool. And I just want to just do it again. So grab this guy, put it there, and then put that guy. He's going to be a pain, which is right here somewhere. All right, and let's see how that worked. And then I can put that little script back, because I think there was something wrong with the things that we had here. Cool. All right, so let's go back then and go to that script, and let's undo that change, because the great thing is we can just put that back, and this shouldn't have a problem. Maybe I can actually fix it finally. Break something, fix something else, fix something, break something else. Yeah. So what happens here? That's always happened before. What happens here when I grab this guy here and I put this guy over here? That's good. Seems to be fixed. Okay. File save. File save project. Last thing to do is build this thing and check out if our changes for everything worked and how janky this thing is right here, because that is something we want to do. So I want to go to build settings, and I want to build it for Android. So we'll switch platform, and then we'll be good, done for the day. I'm not going to do anything else. And let's build up. Well, this is doing that. Let's pull up LD player so we can check to see if that's there. Herman's like, I'll take the lazy approach and make the enemy not collide with each other. I agree, Herman. I agree, but we kind of fixed it. Oh, you mean like you make him pass right through, like no collision? Just ignore the collision altogether, right? All right, let's clean up some of our messes here because we got some mess. So we'll clean some of this up while we're doing some housekeeping while this thing is switching platforms. Did it switch already? Nope. These files. So this way we will make sure that it's good to go. Okay, so that looks like we're okay. Put that guy down there. All right, and now that we switched, let's build and run. So before we do that, let's go to player settings. Let's switch this to 0.6. This is lab 11. And we'll go into the other settings here and make sure that they have the right settings as well. CA dot George Brown College. Good. And now we should be able to build and run. And we're going to target our builds folder. And we're going to say that this is lab 11. They're about 30 megs each, which isn't terrible, to be honest. Oh man, it's going to go on the wrong device. It's going to go on my Oculus Quest again. No. That's okay. As long as once we built the assembly, then it should be no problem. I know, it's terrible. Okay, guys, I'm not going to keep you just while we're waiting for that build to happen. And I'm probably going to spark out here. Again, make sure to remember next week is your practical test that we're going to be doing. Right? Again, you'll be getting I'll be getting Saturday to complete it. I'm not going to make it a crazy test. It'll be based on some of the things we've talked about this semester, and it'll be doable within 2 hours. Something that is not going to be like a whole week long thing that you're going to have to do, because that's too crazy. Okay, so that's what's happening right now. And that's really it for today. Thank you guys for being both gathered and on Zoom. I appreciate it. And I know it's because I'm doing so much, and I'm doing Zoom, I'm building. It's sparking out like crazy. So thank you again for, and of course I'm also broadcasting live on YouTube. Those are like 3-4 things I'm doing now compared to normal. So guys, thank you so much for waiting around, and hopefully you got that I'm releasing the test on Monday. It's due on Saturday, And I'm going to give you a starter project that should be everything should be doable within 2 hours. Okay, that's the idea behind it. Any questions before we go? It should be doable within 2 hours. Yeah, should be. Okay, I'm trying to make it so it's not like crazy. It's not supposed to take a week-long test. Yeah, no, I'm not doing the No Mercy final. It's going to be, I'm not going to be the killer guy. I'm going to make it so that you guys can just basically show that you can build something on. Will need an Android build, that's for sure, and you'll need to test it in some kind of simulator. Okay, that's the only thing that I can guarantee. The rest are things you've known that we've done in the platforming side this semester. Okay, any questions before we go for the day? Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me on GatherTown and Zoom, and I'll see you guys soon. And I'll stop recording on YouTube.